Hi, welcome to TechO.com. I'm TechO. I wanted to ask you whether you sometimes get caught up, just like I do. Do you have a lot of things to do? Do you find that you don't have enough time to do them and overwhelm and panic starts to set in? Well, that's my challenge for you today, is to ask you this question. How do you set your priorities and get stuff done, important stuff? How do you get that done without stuff happening all around you and overwhelm starting to happen? Well, I use something that derived from the Eisenhower principle. General Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, apparently said that he had two kinds of problems, the urgent problem and the important problem. And he said that the urgent problem was almost never important, the important problem should never ever be urgent. And that apparently is how he organized his own list of things to do. Well, Stephen Covey, in his book, a highly readable book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, used this principle and put it into a matrix. Here's how I use it. But before I tell you how I use that matrix, I think it's important to work out in your own mind what's the difference between urgent and important. This is the way I would define it. What's important, the things that you have to do that are important, are things that move you closer to your goals. They have a value, they have an ultimate value. Things are not important if they don't move you to your goals and somehow don't have that value. Urgent things, however, are sometimes the same, but they're actually very different things from important things. They're only the same because important things have become urgent. Urgent things are things that demand immediate action now. It's that voice in your ear, it's that friend from across the hall saying, do it now. But however, they may be of no value. They're things you may have to do simply because the time has run out on you. So if you bear in mind the difference between important and urgent, it's critical to the way we use this matrix. It's a matrix that sets out how you start to work on the things you have to do and in what order. The first thing you do is to list all your tasks. If you don't have a to-do list, great, now's the time to do one. As you write these tasks, start to think for yourself, are these really my tasks, or has somebody imposed this on me? Is this something that they need, that they've got me to do somehow? Because that's going to be quite important in how you consider what to do. The second thing you do is to go through that list and work out how important it is. Give yourself a scale of 1 to 5. I use 1 to 5 because it's not a very precise measure. Some people use 1 to 10. So as you go through the list, you can say, oh, that's not very important, I'll call it 1. Oh, that's very important, that moved me really close to my goals and it's of intense value to me, so I'll give it a 5. And you go through it that way. Once you've finished working out whether it's important, go through the list again, and again, 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, work out how urgent it is. This is something I've got to do right now, so it's got to be a 5. This is something I can take my time over. It might be a 2 or a 1, maybe a 3, and rank each of these to-do items in order of importance and then in order of urgency as 1 to 5. The next thing you do is you draw up the matrix. Now this is a slightly different matrix from the Stephen Covey one, and it's slightly different from others that are also shown, but it uses the same principle. In this matrix, you draw on the horizontal line urgency going upwards, and on the vertical line importance going upwards. And as I said to you, I use a scale of 1 to 5 because you can't be very precise. I mean, what's the difference between 3 out of 5 and 4 out of 10? So on a scale of 1 to 5, that's urgency going upwards. On a scale of 1 to 5, that's importance going upwards. You can therefore see that this quadrant is very urgent and very important things. This quadrant is very urgent but not so important. This quadrant here is not very urgent and not very important either. And this quadrant is very important, those are the high value things, and they're not very urgent. And once you have that matrix and you've got your list, plot your tasks on the list. So task number 1 might be 5 and 5, task number 2 might be 3 and 2, task number 3 might be 2 and 4, and so on. And this might populate to a picture that looks something like that. Lots of tasks, they're all over the place. So how do you deal with those tasks? Well, you then start to look at each quadrant and you have a strategy of what you do within each quadrant. The first quadrant we'll talk about is this one here, which is high impact, high urgency. Now, the sorts of things that go in there are things that are like crises. They're unplanned things that suddenly have to be done, or they're deadlines that have crept up to you and you've got to do them now. Usually the word unplanned or not enough planning is what gets you into that fix. Because it's high importance and high urgency, particularly because it's high importance, you don't want to miss it, you do that now. So you do everything in that quadrant right now, get it done. And then in future, you want to keep the list that goes in there as small as possible because you don't want important things rushed through because they're urgent. The second quadrant we'll look at is this one, which is low importance and high urgency. The sorts of things that go in there are interruptions, phone calls, emails, things that you sort of kind of have to drop things and do just simply because somebody's asking you. And that's the key. Often it's somebody asking you. Now, the strategy for that quadrant of low importance, high urgency is to avoid them altogether. Delegate those tasks because they're of low importance to you, but although they may be high urgency, get somebody else to do them. And in future, push back. If somebody's asking you to do something that's of low importance to you, low value to you, negotiate. Try and leave that quadrant as empty as possible. Then I'll deal with this quadrant, which is low importance and low urgency. The examples of those things in there, it might be analysis by paralysis. You're sort of reanalyzing and reanalyzing because you can't quite make up your mind. It might be junk mail. Great example, Facebook and other social media. Unless you're using it for marketing, you're probably wasting your time there. The strategy for that quadrant, low importance, low urgency, is to eliminate. Just don't do them. Get rid of them. Keep that bucket empty. And if 1 or 2 things appear in there and they're stress related, you ought to look at the root causes of that stress and try and work out how they fit in elsewhere to get them done. If they're leisure activities, that's fine. Facebooking could be a leisure activity, but if it is, schedule it because leisure is important and it goes elsewhere. And the final quadrant I want to talk to you about is this quadrant of high importance, low urgency. The sorts of things that would fit in there would be planning activities, looking ahead, looking at new opportunities, strategic matters that you need to think about. Anything that improves the quality of what it is you're trying to do is high important. And it may be low urgency. And the reason it's low urgency is because you should have strategy focused on it. You should have scheduled it, and then you're doing it in accordance with the schedule. Do not ever allow high important, low urgency things not to be done so that it drags across to high importance, high urgency, and then they become a crisis. So that's your strategy. High importance, high urgency, do it now. Low importance, high urgency, avoid, delegate. Low importance, low urgency, eliminate altogether. High importance, low urgency, schedule it, focus on it. So how do I use that? Every week, I have a list of things to do. I'll go through and I'll plan how I do them, in what priority, based on this matrix. And then I review it every day. How am I going? How far have I gone? Am I on track? Do I need to change anything? Now, overall, don't be overwhelmed and don't panic. Think positively that you can get out of this overwhelm and that you can organize your massive to-do list. All you need to do is think straight. Is it important? Is it urgent? And work it out. If you want to know more about creating great strategy for your business or providing leadership in that business, or if you simply want to know how to grow your business, I have a lot more tips and ideas and business tools for you available on the website for free. These are things that I sell on my face-to-face bricks and mortar business, so you can have all of them for free if you go to the website. They're all downloadable. The website is teikoh.com, teikoh.com. I'll see you soon.